This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
An Ohio man has been freed from prison after spending 39 years behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. Ricky Jackson, a 59-year-old African-American man, had been jailed since 1975 on a murder conviction. The prosecution's case was based on the testimony of a 13-year-old witness. After a 2011 investigation, the witness recanted his testimony, saying he had implicated Jackson and two others under police coercion. The witness, Eddy Vernon, said police had fed him the story and threatened him with the arrest of his parents if he didn't cooperate. On Friday, Ricky Jackson was freed after prosecutors dropped the case.
How does it feel? It's extraordinary. I'm very happy. Needless to say, you know, words can't express how I feel right now. Just glad to be out, glad to be a free man.
What are you going to do? Where are you going to go?
Wow. I mean, you know, you sit in prison for so long, you think about this day, but when it actually comes, you don't know what you just want to do something, you know, besides what you've been doing for 39 years. Okay.
When you heard the judge say an hour ago, you're a free man, goodbye, talk about what you were feeling. What was going on that we couldn't see?
I mean, it was like an emotional roller coaster, you know, just, I mean, the English language doesn't fit what I'm feeling right now, you know, it's just, I mean, I'm just on the emotional high right now.
With nearly 4 decades wrongfully behind bars, Jackson's the longest-held U.S. prisoner to be exonerated. Another defendant in the case who served slightly less time, Wiley Bridgman, has also been released. For more, we go to Cincinnati, Ohio, where we're joined by Ricky Jackson and his lawyer, Brian Howe, a staff attorney with the Ohio Innocence Project. Ricky and Brian, welcome to Democracy Now! Ricky Jackson, how does it feel to be free?
Good morning. I'm still getting used to it. You know, it's almost been a week, and I'm still getting adjusted and acclimated to being out here, you know, and not being inside those closed walls, you know. Enclosed walls.
And during all those years that you were behind bars, did you ever lose hope or expectation that you would finally be exonerated? Could you tell us about the emotional trials you went through all that time?
Well, like I said previously, it's constantly a battle trying to stay positive. And some days you get to the point where you don't think you're going to make it. And, you know, it's just an up and down type situation, you know. You're always up and down, you know. And but to answer your question, there were times when I thought, you know, this is it for me. I'm not, you know, this is it.
Ricky,
you know?
Ricky, tell us your story. What happened 40 years ago and how it was that a 13-year-old child was the key witness against you, who now, very ill 40 years later, wanted to come clean.
Well, the case happened in 1975. I was 18 years old at the time, and there was a neighborhood store that was robbed by 3 assailants, and somehow Eddy Vernon became involved in the case. Apparently, he went to the police and told them that he was a witness and that he eventually identified myself, Ronnie Bridgman, and Wiley Bridgman as the assailants. A couple of days later, we were arrested, taken downtown and arraigned, held before a lineup, and we weren't picked out in the lineup, but unbeknownst to us, we didn't know this. We thought we were, you know, everything was okay. Nobody came out and said that you guys are being charged or anything. So we assumed we was getting our obligatory phone call after you're arrested, and we thought we were going home, but that didn't turn out to be the case. And a few months later, we all went on trial. We were charged with capital crimes, and subsequently, we all lost our trials. We were sent to death row. We were sentenced to die in the Ohio electric chair. We were all sent to death row, where we stayed and lingered and wondered and worried for 2.5 years.
Now there was I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just at that time there was a lot of debate about the Ohio death penalty. So As it turned out, they nullified the death penalty at that time, and everybody back there was given a life sentence in prison.
Now, there was a period of time when you were offered the possibility of parole. Could you talk about that and your insistence on your innocence?
Yes, sir. My attorney here, Mr. Brian Howe, he came to me one day and he said, "Listen, Ricky, this is the situation. There's a deal on the table. You can walk out of here now a free man if you'll plead guilty to the charges you're presently incarcerated for." I mean, and I have to admit that it was a tempting offer. At that time, I'd been in prison so long, I didn't even know what the sky looked like anymore. But, you know, it was just something inside of me that said, you can't do this. You know, you've gone too long, you struggled too hard, you can't do this, you're innocent, you know. Don't admit to something you didn't do, you're innocent. And that was the decision I made. It was the right decision, and really it was the only decision that I could have made.
And Brian, how could you talk about the process of exonerating Ricky Jackson? The role of some initial reporting on the case in a local newspaper, and then the Innocence Project's involvement, and the role of two people who at the time were school children on a bus in terms of being able to get him exonerated.
Yes, thanks, Juan. I mean, this case was really, literally years in the making. You know, when the Ohio Innocence Project first got this case, it was before Eddy Vernon had come forward and recanted. There were students there that had spoken with Ricky, that strongly and sincerely believed in his innocence, and that were passionate about the case, and that's what kept things going. Around 3 or 4 years ago, there was some really fantastic investigative journalism done by Kyle Swenson at the Cleveland Scene magazine. He continued to find things that suggested maybe that there was something wrong with the trial back in 1975, inconsistencies in Eddy Vernon's story and leads that the police had towards other people. That continued until eventually in 2013, Eddy Vernon in a hospital room confessed to his pastor that he had lied in 1975 and had carried that weight with him for you know, over 35, 36 years at that point. And his pastor encouraged him to come forward to the Innocence Project. We continued to work on the case. I mean, we found school children who were with Eddy Vernon on a school bus when the shooting happened, even as recently as a week before the hearing. So, you know, I mean, this has just been such an effort by so many different people. Law students, over a dozen law students with the University of Cincinnati College of Law, the attorney on the case prior to me, Kerry Wood. So many people have put a lot of work into this case, and it's just really something special to be sitting next to Ricky here today. It's not something that we would have dreamed was possible a few weeks ago.
Ricky, I wanted to go back to that 2011 article published by the Cleveland Scene that laid out the weakness in the case against you. The article notes you were convicted based on this testimony of a 13-year-old boy with poor eyesight and conflicting stories, Eddy Vernon. Now a grown man has since filed an affidavit admitting he never saw the murder. Also claims he was threatened by police into identifying you as one of the murderers. Vernon told the Cleveland Scene, quote, "The detective said that I was too young to go to jail, but he would arrest my parents for perjury because I was backing out. My mom was sick at that time, and that really scared me. I didn't want my parents to get in trouble over this." So, Ricky Jackson, now you are free. What are your plans for Thanksgiving?
I want to be with some good people. Here in Cincinnati, they prepared a nice dinner for me, and it's just going to relax and just enjoy the holiday, play some games, watch some football, just do normal people stuff, you know?
And I wanted to ask Brian how this whole issue of we're constantly seeing these stories of people who spend years in prison and then later are exonerated, but no one seems to be asking what's wrong with our criminal justice system. That we time and again we're having these examples of a justice system that just didn't bother to really seek the truth, but rather sought a conviction.
Yes, I mean, it's a human system, and any system that's run by human beings is always going to have errors. I think as a country, we've decided to set the bar at a place where hopefully, we prefer guilty people go free than innocent people be convicted, but obviously that doesn't always happen. And lots of people who are trying to do a good job and are sincere in what they're doing, including police and prosecutors, are human beings and they make mistakes. The more cases like this come out, the more aware I think that we are of the sort of mistakes that can lead to this. The problems with witness identification, the problem with leading interviews or leading questions in witness interviews, the sort of pressures that witnesses can be under. And so, hopefully cases like this will mean that it's more rare moving forward, and people like Ricky don't spend 39 years in prison for something.
Ricky Jackson, as you're released from jail, Ferguson is on fire, and I was wondering if you have thoughts about this.
Well, first of all, it's a terrible tragedy, but unfortunately, it's something that seems to be reoccurring in America all too often. And I just think that everyone's lost the ability to, or just don't want to talk to each other. I mean, I think it all begins with dialogue, and sometimes you have to listen to the other side to get an understanding of the entire situation, Now, I just think it needs to be more dialogue.
Two brothers were convicted with you, Brian Howe. What has happened to them?
Well, honestly, they're struggling right now. I mean, they're really struggling right now. I mean, it hasn't been easy for these guys since they got out.
Finally, Brian Howe. Well, no, let me ask Ricky Jackson. You faced death. How close did you come to death? And what were your thoughts as an innocent man about to be put to death by the state?
Well, when you're sentenced to death, they give you a death date, and I was back there 2.5 years, and mine came up, and I heard a prison guard coming down the walkway, and I thought they were coming for me that because it was my day. But really, they give you this yellow piece of paper that says that you've had a stay of execution pending Ohio Supreme Court decision, and it was just you were always on edge. It was just a terrible situation to be in. Thinking that you could be dead any day now. It was just a horrible situation.
So the state almost took your life. They did take 40 years of your life. Will you be compensated?
I have no idea, ma'am. It's a long process. Mr. Howe could probably answer that question better than I could.
Well, Brian, you have 10 seconds.
Well, it is a long road. Certainly I think he deserves something for the 40 years that was taken from him, but that's something that we'll just have to see as things move forward.
It's amazing already $43,000 has been raised just from people who care about you, Ricky Jackson. We will continue to follow to see what the state will do. Ricky Jackson has just been released from prison after 39 years for a crime he did not commit. Longest held man who's now been exonerated. His lawyer, Brian Howe, a staff attorney with the Ohio Innocence Project. Happy holidays to you both. That does it for our broadcast. If you'd like a copy, go to our website at democracynow.org. Our specials this week will be Noam Chomsky for an hour and Isabel Allende. Tune in. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Thanks for joining us.